So there are obviously going to be subjects that really celebrate color, and it's unmistakably about color, and this is certainly one of them. As a matter of fact, I've never experienced a location that celebrates color more than the California coastline up around Carmel, which is where this is. Just terrific beauty, and the thing that really strikes me about this is there's a beauty in the relationship of color between these cool notes here and the warm notes here, balanced by grays that are scattered throughout. So it's a wonderful, that shadow there. It's a wonderful variation of them and ratio of them, of the rich versus gray, warm versus cool. If this were my painting, I would likely, actually, I can tell you that I would play that up as my focal point and really capitalize on the cool, rich colors versus the warm, rich colors, and then surround them by some of these gray notes so that they really sing. But the thing I've discovered, especially in the natural world, is by far the majority of the color you see out there leans to the gray side, and it's just a few of these wild, rich notes that will carry the whole painting. So be careful you don't overdo it everywhere. Once you do that, color is no longer special. It becomes competitive, and that will likely ruin your painting. This subject is more about neutral gray color with a scattering of rich notes here and there, particularly within this fall foliage here. So I see this as just a terrific opportunity to surround that by some of these shimmery neutral violets. So you're playing up on complements between the violets and the yellows, and the rich of the yellow versus the gray of these violets, and playing one off the other. And you can come up with really beautiful painting. If this feels a little too isolated in here, you can come up with the areas here and there that sort of bring harmony throughout the painting. Just don't overdo it, and don't polka dot them too much. But what a powerful image this is, and a great, for me, color opportunity. Again, I tend to favor gray, more neutral colors, but that's just who I am. If you tend to swing more to the saturated side, fair enough. Just make sure you balance it with some beautiful grays. This image also along the California coast is more about warm and cool. If you look at the warmth of this plant life here relative to the rich blue of the coast, you see that's just electric right there. In some of these areas, it appears to be fairly close in value, but boy, I'll tell you what, that's just vibrant. That would be a really fun exercise and something to play up on. You see a similar thing here in this fall scene with these backlit willow leaves warm willow leaves against that cool river back there. Boy, it just, everything plays up to that little bit of detail and that dramatic impact right there. These things you see as they reach off into the distance begin to gray down, begin to cool down as they recede off in the distance, and then they really become gray back there. That, of course, reinforces the illusion of atmospheric perspective, which we have at our disposal not only as a color option, but an opportunity to create depth. This is another opportunity with a warm and cool, but also value contrast within a rich color and this more neutral rock that's in sunlight. It gives you not only that color contrast that's nice, but the value contrast as well. I mean, look at this beautiful shape up here, and the opportunity to really let that be a foil for some of the business down here in terms of saturated color and high key value. Golly, do you see about 10 paintings in that, or what? The painting I wanted to talk about is this Handsome Puttoff, which is a tremendous example of warm and cool. You can see it here. What this painting displays is something that I'd like to point out to you folks and keep in mind. If you're ever going to get out and paint that last sunlight on a peak or a building or a tree or whatever it is, keep in mind that as your light source warms up, you're going to see, of course, the warmer highlights, but the shadows are going to get cooler, okay? Warm light, cool shadows. What happens is when that sun gets low in the sky, also the intensity of that light is diffused. It's not as is great, a contrast. And so what happens is value-wise, these two get closer together. So what's happening is value contrast gives way, again, to color contrast. And if you can chase that and create that illusion, you're going to get that feeling of that soft yet warm sunset light. And I think that he's done an absolutely terrific job of that here. He obviously has the value contrast between that shaded foreground and the light back here, but boy, that really works. Again, this is Hansen Puttup. Here is a painting of mine where I use just one little element of warmth to play off those richer, cool notes of the surf. Subtle variations of this green-gray that suggest, moss growing on these rocks. And again, most of all this down here is gray, which is a nice foil, a nice contrast to the more saturated color as you move back into the focal point, which is this area here. So I'm playing with rich color, but I'm also limiting its overpowering nature by surrounding it with a few grays. And the thing to keep in mind, I mean, if you look at this color right here, what color is that? Well, I see it as a violet gray, but when your mind starts, when you can't identify what that color is, just go ahead and naturally assume that it's a gray and mix a neutral point and start from there. You can see in this painting, I've played up on what appears to be some very rich color. I've played that color up by, again, surrounding it with grays. This whole mass down here is very neutral relative to that color. Same thing with this back here. So you're kind of sandwiching that color between these two masses of neutral gray, and it gives them an opportunity to really sing. They're not going to stand out if I'd have been down in here with more rich, warm color. Then the whole thing would just feel like it's overloaded. In this painting, it's very obvious that the rich color is contained where it is and what it is and what it's doing. You have one big dominant shape here. In the original, you can see where I really played up on a highlight over here, right up against the contrast of that darker value there that really played it off and gave it some snap. But from a ratio standpoint, this mass right here, the whole thing relative to the whole painting is what? 15% of the mass of the painting? So even that small amount of color can make the whole painting feel like it's rich and saturated. So really think about where you want to place that, how you can play color theory up to make that sing, break it down to the fundamentals: hue, value, intensity, temperature. Where are they? How can I use them to design and reinforce, to design the painting and reinforce my concept? This was all about the warm and cool. The color of that water was so rich, it was almost garish. The question became, golly, when I was standing out there painting, I thought, should I knock that back a little bit? I mean, is anybody going to believe that? Which I did, by the way. But I also went for a vibrancy, kind of an electric neon kind of vibrancy between that warm and cool in this piece. And that's what I was trying to celebrate here. Again, just playing one thing off another. You might see a series of colors that present themselves that are really complementary and enhance one another, and that was the case in this piece. Here I was a little more inventive. We had an incredible wildflower season a couple years ago. Had a lot of the poppies blooming in the desert and a few little bits of lupin. They were so small that you could barely see them, so I exaggerated it to play up the complementary relationship between the yellow and those lupin, and you can see they just give that as well a nice vibrancy. I exaggerated the cool color along the edge of this saguaro here. You can see it again up here, so that the warmth of that saguaro was sort of vibrating against the blue reflection of the sky coming in from the right. But just little tricks. One of my mentors, and I mentioned it earlier, was Jim Reynolds, and again, he made the comment to me about, he was always on me about pushing my color and being a little more creative with my color, and I'm so thankful for that. And he would always illustrate it in his paintings, not specifically for me, but I would step away from the conversation I'd have with him and look at his paintings and always see that beautiful color. And and I tried to apply some of that theory to my work, but he would talk about within an overall dark range, try to insert or introduce a rich color that might be complementary or enhance that overall shape there without breaking out of that value family. So if you really squint your eyes and look at this area right here, that swirl with that spot of color, if you squint your eyes enough, it disappears, which says it fits back in there fine. But when you step back and look at it, there's still that vibrancy there that is so wonderful. And again, this whole area in the background is a very neutral violet, which is a nice complement to the yellow and the rich versus gray opportunity that we have there. You know, even though we're talking about color and celebrating color, above all, I want you to remember that foundational value structure is almighty important. You have to make sure you absolutely get that down. So I wanted to take a painting where it you know, obviously celebrates rich, saturated color, the warm color in this willow in relation to the rich blue of that sky is a nice, warm and cool vibrancy. Obviously, the willow isn't as intense as the sky. But if you go over here and look at the black and white, the value structure, you can see they are nearly the same value. If you really squint, the separation from this bush to the sky right there disappears. It's the same value. So what I'm doing is I'm simplifying value and I'm playing up on that color shift there that is what I'm really trying to celebrate in this painting. So again, remember that if your painting is about color, simplify value. If it's about value, simplify color. But by all means, make sure that value structure is there to begin with. Hi, my name is Matt Smith. One of the primary goals of this online course is to give folks the opportunity to study with me for a full year at their convenience, on their own time frame. It's not always easy to block out a week or more time to travel to a distant location for the purpose of studying with an artist of choice. Allowing oneself to study as their schedule permits creates a more relaxed atmosphere, which in turn opens the mind to learning. This is an opportunity I really wish I had in my early years. The course begins with an introductory module covering the basic consideration of tools, equipment, studio arrangement, lighting, the importance of indoor versus outdoor time, photography as a tool, and much more. This first module will set the tone for the remaining modules, which will dive more deeply into the basics of drawing, value, design, and color. In the remaining 4 modules, I'll discuss why these basics are important, how to identify them, and in return, how to use them not only to analyze your chosen subject, but how to use them to create a blueprint for building your painting. It is so important to train your mind to see and think as an artist rather than someone who just documents what's in front of them. The way to do this is by understanding these fundamentals and applying them to the subject at hand. In other words, see by way of the basics, line, shape, value, etc., rather than all the physical components that make up the finished scene, like twigs, pebbles, and leaves. I'll then reinforce these concepts with both unedited visuals, photographs, and finished paintings that support the idea at hand. I'll then complete a demo of a subject that represents the particular fundamental addressed in each module. I'll also include a variety of photographic images for student use. Participants will also have access to me throughout the year by way of a private Facebook group. You'll be able to contact me with questions related to areas of difficulty or whatever you may be working on and want to discuss. This one-on-one time is where we can really fine-tune areas of interest for you. Thank you, and I really hope you can join me.